What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the first Millennial Saint 2.0 explanation. The first piece is currently in the Centro San Lorenzo in the Vatican, aka the Vatican's Youth Center, which is fantastic, the CSL. And the second Carlo Acutis piece, 2.0, has been commissioned by the Blessed Carlo Acutis Parish, the only parish in the United States named after Blessed Carlo Acutis, which is in downtown Chicago. The other one is in the UK. So I want to give you guys a tour of the first Millennial Saint art piece, where it was actually constructed right here behind me in this garage. Let's get after it. Come on. As you can see, it's a beautiful sunny day in Denver, Colorado. We've got some ants right here making themselves at home. Carlo was a huge fan of bugs and animals. In fact, when he worked at the pool, he would commonly scoop the bugs, the beetles, the bees that were drowning in the pool and give them a safe resting place on the land. He was that attuned with anything that was alive and had a beating heart. All right. Welcome to the workshop. So this is where Carlo 2.0 was constructed, right here in South Denver, Colorado. We have this nice foldable table. We've got the picture frame all done. We also have a full engine out of the car. There are a lot of handy men that live in this home. So I'm gonna pick up this piece and we'll take it outside. Oh. Thankfully no pieces have fallen off. That means the glue has stuck. Check it out! Look at Carlo go! His first steps. Carlo is being moved for the very first time on Whitman Street. We'll set it right here for a second. This piece weighs about 45 to 50 pounds. That is a lot of toys. About 1,052 to be exact. All right. So as you can tell, there's a lot going on in this piece. And so I want to take you on a couple-minute journey of Carlo Acutis' life, told through all of the toys on this 1,000-figure mosaic. So come on in close. Let's start with the focal point of the piece. Come on down low and take a look at this. So obviously this is the crucifix. We have Jesus right here. He is the focal point of the whole art piece. You'll notice, of course, Saint Longinus, who is the soldier that pierced Jesus' side. The blood and water is running out from his side and onto the soldier and onto the ground. Of course, we see the Blessed Virgin Mary right here at the foot of the cross. There is nothing higher on this piece than the top of the crucifix, of course, signifying that God is higher and greater than all. Now, if you take a step back a little bit for me, the greater vision of the piece is that, of course, Carlo Acutis is the first millennial saint. How do you become a saint? To become a saint in the Catholic Church, you need to have 2 documented miracles, verifiable, permanent, and can be scientifically proven that there is no scientific explanation for what happened. It was miraculous. And so I'll get to the 2 miracles in this piece. But Carlo was the first millennial saint. So he was born in 1991 in England. He moved to Milan. His family was a little bit wealthier, so they'd travel around the world. And Carlo would document the Eucharistic miracles and compile them onto a website. He was also a computer programming prodigy, so he was able to document 163 of the church's miracles. Carlo always said there's lines outside of bands, there's lines outside of the venues for shows, for soccer games, but there's no line outside the tabernacle for Jesus. If we truly believe in the true presence, why isn't this the case? And so as you can see, there are a lot of colored figures. There's 163 colored figures to be exact, the blues, the reds, the greens, and the oranges alike. Now, all of the culture of death, the culture that is not for Jesus, are all of the gray, white, and black figures. And if you come in close, you'll notice that all of those figures have their orientation fixed on the crucifix. Black figures, gray figures, white figures, all pointing at Jesus, symbolizing crucify him, pointing the gun at Jesus. Now, all of the Christians, however, are outward facing. So all of these guys are facing away, fighting against the culture of death, going against the grain because they're evangelizing. And there's 163 of those to represent the miracles that Carlo documented. So let's get into the first miracle. Down here we will see 2 stakes. Now, there was a Brazilian boy named Mateus, and Mateus was born of a malformed pancreas. He could not eat. He was going to have a very invasive surgery, and it was causing him immense pain. He was going to pass away. It was a fatal disease. Pancreas is basically clamped. And so he one day touched a relic of Carlo Acutis after Mass, and he was miraculously healed. And his first meal that he was able to consume, digest, and not throw up was steak and French fries. And you'll actually see the French fries are these yellow spots here that make up the road of one of Carlo's most famous quotes, which is, "The Eucharist is my highway to heaven." So that's the steak and fries there. Then if you come up to the top, just off the crucifix to the right, we see this green bicycle. Carlo's second verified miracle was a woman who was studying abroad named Valeria in Florence. And she took a crash and fell off her bicycle, and she suffered severe brain hemorrhaging. Now, Valeria was able to survive. The doctors did not think that was going to happen, obviously because her brain bleeding was so severe. And so when her mom actually was the one that went to Carlo's tomb and prayed for his intercession, and it was a direct link right to Valeria, and she was also miraculously healed. Praise the Lord. So those are the two miracles. Now we're going to move on to a couple other things about Carlo's life. So Carlo loved animals, as I shared about, even the bugs. He would literally not be able to take any sort of punishment or beating of an animal or stepping on a bug. I think he was just really, really in tune. But there was one kid that actually squashed it was a lizard while he was on vacation, and his mom had to basically comfort him for quite some time after that. So we see Carlo had 4 dogs and 2 cats, which are pictured around his desk, that he would have created the Eucharistic Miracle website right here. He's got a little soda, a world globe, and then he's got the Holy Bible. And so he'd always make films and videos with his dogs. Also his housekeeper Rajesh, who was Indo-Mauritian from Mauritius, which is kind of crazy. I was able to visit Mauritius while studying abroad one time, and he was Hindu and converted to Catholicism through Carlo's witness. You'll see up here we've got a camera right on top of this NES controller. It even works. How about that? Carlo loved taking pictures and films, of course, of the miracles, but also of his animals, and he played video games. But he was a very different kid. He was very disciplined and only kept himself to 1 hour a week because he had studying and evangelizing to do. So then we'll also see at the top part, one of Carlo's favorite stories in the Bible, of course, David and Goliath. We'll see this is Goliath laid out, completely beheaded, and here is David with the wound right in the head, holding the head of Goliath right in the center. If we come down here a little bit further, we're going to see more about Carlo. We have his body right here, of course, on the bed. There's a little bit of a scale down there. If you see that, Carlo, after his death, his mom found a video, and Carlo was smiling, saying, "I know that I am to die." And he looks up and he smiles. He knew. He also predicted that he would die at exactly 51 kilograms. It might be 50, but 156 pounds roughly. He knew exactly when he would pass. We'll come along down here. We see that St. Paul has fallen off his high horse. All of these figures, the 4-inch tall figures that go around, represent all of the disciples. Judas is not pictured. And then, of course, St. Paul, the great evangelist. Over here, we see a little girl and a little boy on these crosses holding the Eucharist. And it was said that on the exact 4-day anniversary of Carlo's passing, Carlo was an only child. His mom gave birth to 2 healthy twins, which is incredible, a boy and a girl. And they were present at Carlo's beatification, which is just incredible. And so she was in her 40s at that point. And so to have 2 healthy kids is absolutely extraordinary. Down over here, we see a little television with one of my personal favorite quotes, which you can barely see way under there, which says, "The best way to love tomorrow is giving the best fruit to today." And I absolutely love that. Over here, we'll see the Pope-Oroni pizza with Pope Leo XIV. It is really incredible that at Carlo's deathbed, he was always praying and interceding for other people, for the Pope, for the church, for the nurses who would come in and ask how he was doing. His body was completely swollen, but you knew that Carlo was completely in touch with God because he had almost no death anxiety. He was ready to die under extreme pain, and when doctors asked, he always asked them how they were doing. And so he actually went to Pope Leo XIII High School. And so it's actually incredible that Pope Leo XIV will be canonizing him September 7th. Pope-Oroni Pizza, of course, one of my favorite pizza shops in the world, Aurelio's Pizza. Shout out Joe Aurelio. He created the Pope-Oroni Pizza, of course, because Chicagoland, the Pope is from Chicago, and so we had to include the pizza on the piece. If we'll come over here for a minute, we'll notice that there's a motherboard over his heart and a motherboard up top that's over his brain. These two motherboards are connected by one cable that is exactly 5'11.5", which is exactly how tall Carlo was. This also represents, of course, a vein connecting the brain and the heart. And lastly, it's two heartbeats. If you turn it sideways, two heartbeats representing the two lives that Carlo had a huge role in, of course, with his two new siblings. The heart and the mind are informed, and so because of that, they were one, right? The faith and reason, heart and mind. Carlo, they were not separate. You'll see right here, there's actually a charger that has 10 different adapters that are coming out of his heart, each with a different end adapter and each with a different color. This, of course, represents all of the people across all the different cultures that Carlo evangelized using his website, which was translated into dozens of languages around the world, reaching millions of people. Just a couple more things, and then we will wrap this piece up. If you come over here, we see we've got some white shoelace. Of course, Carlo is the first saint that we know that is buried in tennis shoes, so he's very relatable to us. He sort of takes sainthood down from the stained glass windows and recognizes that you don't have to be a religious, you don't have to be praying for 10 hours a day. You can be a young kid with a normal life and be called to sainthood, because the universal call of holiness is true for every single person alive. And so that's what these shoelaces represent, because most of us are wearing tennis shoes, except me, because I don't know how to tie my shoes. Right in here, you'll see a little cable that's charging. You'll notice the difference. These cables right here over Carlo's heart are bright and colorful, and you know where they come from, and you can clearly see where they end. Now, if you look over here, this cable is sort of white, it's camouflage, and it's ominous. You don't quite know where it starts, but you know where it ends, and that represents social media. You don't always know the root, and even the internet. You don't know where the information is coming from all the time. There's not these very transparent sources. And as you can see, these people are actually being suffocated by social media, by the cable of comparison. That's what social media can do, but it can also evangelize and save the world and lead to donor transplants and relationships and everything. So Carlo recognized that the internet can be used for good and for evil, and just like this model shows here. Of course, Carlo is a big fan of the beautiful game, which is why you've got the two soccer goals and the turf on the back here. Let's take a step back and come to a conclusion here. So that is the first Millennial Saint 2.0. As I'm looking at this piece, there's a few other things that I have not explained, which please go to carloacutisart.com for more information. I couldn't explain everything in this video. Surely this was one take, right, Mark? Yes. Fantastic. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to make more pieces of Carlo. There's one, of course, in Italy, and this piece will be being delivered to the Blessed Carlo Acutis Parish in downtown Chicago. I look forward to connecting with all of you, and thank you so much, and God bless. And Carlo Acutis, pray for us.